Hello and welcome back to my channel. Tonight I've got one real story and one story narrated by a friend of mine. It's complete fiction, so don't take any offense to the dark nature of this story. Back in 2015, I was walking to Target at night before the release of the Nuka-Cola Quantum. I was excited to have one, but I didn't have a ride and my bike was stolen a few weeks before, so I had to walk. And as I walked down the dark, desolate country road towards the store, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The only sound was the crunch of the gravel underneath my feet and the distant hum of insects in the night. Suddenly, a truck pulled up alongside me. The driver rolled down his window, called out to me, "Hey bud, need a ride?" The dude instantly creeped me out. This man's demeanor set off alarm bells in my mind. I promptly declined, thanking him for his offer and assuring him I was fine walking. But as I continued on my way, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Glancing over my shoulder, I saw the man's truck following behind me at a slow pace, his headlights casting a sinister glow on the darkness. The man began to rev his engine, his truck inching closer and closer to me. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but I knew I couldn't outpace the vehicle, and therefore there was nowhere to go. There was woods on my right and a ditch on my left. I reached for my phone, ready to dial for help if things took a turn for the worse. The sound of the man's engine grew louder and the headlights illuminated me as he continued to tail me, all the way to the store. I quickened my pace. The store was just up ahead, like a beacon of safety. The man said, "Come on, get in. You must be tired. You can relax and I will get you where you're going, buddy." I kept walking, ignoring him. He kept saying different versions of the same thing, looking at him, and I said, "No, dude, go away." A little later, I finally reached the store, walking up to the small group of people waiting in line, hoping that the man would give up and drive away. He watched me for a while, looking at me and the few people in line. He must have thought it wasn't worth it, because the sound of his engine faded into the night, leaving me shaken but relieved to be out of harm's way. I got my Nuka-Cola Quantum, and then I called a cab to ride home. It was worth the cash to ride in the cab to safety. My new house. As I sat in my new house, alone listening to a chilling horror story narration on YouTube, I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Every creak and slam described in the story seemed to echo through the empty room of my new abode, sending shivers down my spine. But then suddenly I heard a loud slam coming from the basement. My heart jumped into my throat as I thought to myself, that wasn't in the video. I slowly made my way down the creaky stairs. My hands trembling, I searched every corner, every nook, every cranny, but nothing out of the ordinary. I tried to brush it off, feeling unease, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination running wild. But the unsettling noises continued over the next few days, each one more ominous than the last. Finally, unable to ignore my growing fears, I mustered up the courage to venture back into the basement. And then when I saw it, a figure lurking behind some boxes, their eyes glowing in the darkness from my flashlight. My heart pounded in my chest as I sprinted back up the stairs, slamming the door behind me, fumbling with my phone to call the police. When they arrived, they combed through the house, but found no trace of an intruder. I was left feeling on edge, constantly looking over my shoulder in my own house. Hours later, I sat alone in my dimly lit living room. A loud crash shattered the silence. I followed the sound to the source and discovered a broken window in the basement. I looked around and seen a panel of the wall hanging open. It was a hidden room tucked away behind a false wall. Inside of the walls were covered in unsettling symbols, gruesome artifacts, a twisted shrine to an unknown intruder who had been haunting me. My blood ran cold as I realized I was not alone in my new home. All that time, and as I stood there engulfed in fear, I knew I would never truly feel safe here again. Was he still here? Did he leave? I was terrified. I couldn't stay here any longer. I called my parents and moved back home, and I just left that house there to rot. The dark web. I remember the day my friend introduced me to the dark web. He told me all about the illicit activities you could be found there, drugs, weapons, even Hitman for hire. At first, I was hesitant, but curious. I agreed to check it out. After a quick tutorial from my friend, I dove headfirst into the dark corners of the internet. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before, a whole other world filled with danger and intrigue. I couldn't tear myself away from it, clicking from one shady site to the next. One site was just a pie with a countdown. No idea what that was about. But then I went on a website that was like a chat room, people talking back and forth. Some of it seemed like code, so I typed, "Hey guys, what's all that mean?" The chat grinded to a halt, but then a message popped up, "You are being watched." At first I brushed it off as a prank, but as the days went on, I couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. I saw shadowy figures in the corner of my eyes, lurking in the darkness wherever I went. One night, as I was walking home, I felt a hand on my shoulder. Before I knew it, I was surrounded by 4 masked individuals. They beat me mercilessly, whispering a chilling tone, "We are always watching," every time they hit me. Ever since that night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow, every noise sent shivers down my spine. The dark web may have opened my eyes to a whole new world, but it also brought me face to face with a darkness that I never knew existed. And now I lived in constant fear of unseen eyes following me in my every move. This next narration is done by a friend of mine. His YouTube channel is Chad and Drabbits. This story has a air of SA, so if you do not like that kind of thing, please skip this one. But it is a work of fiction, so do not take it literally.
As I drove down the dimly lit streets, my heart raced with excitement and anticipation. I glanced over at the passenger in my back seat, a young girl who was so drunk she could barely keep her eyes open. I couldn't resist the urge that had been building inside me, the need to take advantage of her vulnerable state. I knew it was wrong, but the thrill of the chase was irresistible. I turned off the Uber app and drove away from the location it directed me to. I was planning to take her to a park and S.A. her while she was drunk. I could leave her there, as I was sure she wouldn't remember me. I reached over and took her phone. No one would be able to trace it back to me. I had been trying to resist this urge for a long time. As we approached a red light, I slowed down and came to a stop. Suddenly, the girl's eyes flew open and she bolted out of the car, stumbling onto the pavement. I cursed under my breath and quickly got out of the car, determined to catch her before she could escape. But she was faster than I anticipated, and I struggled to keep up. She ran up to a nearby house and pounded on the door, shouting for help. I could see the fear in her eyes as she desperately tried to get inside. Panic set in as I realized the gravity of the situation. I had to get out of there before anyone caught me. With one last look at the girl, I sprinted back to my car and drove off into the night, my heart pounding in my chest. It was a wake-up call for me, a reminder that my actions have consequences. I vowed never to let my desires get the best of me again.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great night. I hope you enjoyed these stories, and I hope to be able to feature some more of my friends doing stories. I really enjoyed doing this. Thank you for listening. And remember, don't shoot the messenger.